Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle Blunt. I am a professional dominatrix and content creator based out of New York City, and I am thrilled to be joined today by Mistress Tomie. Tomie, I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mistress Tomie. I've been a pro dom since 2019, and I went independent in 2020. And recently, I'm doing a lot more digital work and experimenting with that side of myself. So
I'm
hi.
I'm so thrilled watching your digital explorations, and I love your Mistress Tomie Flesh and Blood and your Mistress Tomie digital. It's so fun and visceral. I love that the language.
Yeah, I was like trying to figure out how to, like not necessarily like incorporate everything, but like I feel like the digital self is an extension of me, and then
Yeah.
the in person is like they're both me, but like different versions of me, and it just didn't feel right to have like one social media page for those two identities, you know?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I think also I don't know, it's also like hearing you say that is very interesting too because there's so much fantasy in what we do, and I feel like the fantasy differs with like what we do with our subs and like our personal life and like and in play as well as what we are presenting online, and the world building in an in-person scene versus what you can do virtually is so different. And I feel like people have so many different ideas about what sex is because of the virtual and because of these like impossible things that can happen in the realm of the virtual, that it
Uh-huh.
really makes sense to me too to like have that like discrete boundary between the two.
Yeah, I think for the virtual, what I've been, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, but what I've been really liking about it is playing with the fantasy, right? Like
Yeah.
playing with the performance and like the camera as a character, and like sometimes like method acting or improvising and really having fun with it in a way that, in like an in-person session where in-person sessions for me sometimes feel um, like a one-person play almost,
Yeah.
where like you're setting the lights, you're like, doing the music, and there's like kind of this like back and forth dance with the other actor or like actress you're
Yeah.
in the room with. But digital is it's a movie. It feels like a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've had such like a fraught relationship with content creation and started in the pandemic started making a lot more content and slowly slowed down a little bit, and I'm picking back up now because the burnout is real. But I have always found that my favorite clips that I've made have been filmed by a submissive lover of mine, because like then I'm
Oh.
just it's like so much easier when I'm just like I'm actually talking to someone, or like even when people like order customs, it's like I can like magically like conjure you into my space and like know you from like your depths. And I feel like even when customs that I make are I'm selling them more broadly, those are always the ones that sell the best, because like that like little seed that someone gives, I feel like it's such a collaborative thing,
Yeah.
and it's fun when that can translate online.
Yeah. What kind of content do you like the most? Or has that changed from
Well,
2022
well,
now?
right now I'm thinking of ex-boyfriend humiliation clips, because I was thinking of
Ooh.
the ex-boyfriend who filmed for me, and I also conjured in
Uh-huh.
some of these fantasies. Ex-boyfriend turned cuckold, had very
Classic.
humiliating, degrading sex life, was really fun. Still think about it. Um, what kind of content have I been liking? I've been really into financial domination as a extension of total power exchange, and a DS relationship is something that I've really liked, indoctrinating people who aren't necessarily who are like I just got off of a call with a submissive who was like, I'm not into femdom, and I'm like, you've been sending to me like you are into femdom. So I feel like
Uh-huh.
we have something to talk about here. And we had this really interesting conversation. I'm about to publish a blog post, and I sent him like an early draft of it, and we were talking about it. And I like getting people into financial domination through psychological domination, as well as like getting to the root of their desires, whatever it may be. So my style is very, very psychological, and it's fun to figure out how to translate that into clips and content.
Yeah.
What about
I feel like
you?
Yeah, I feel like femdom is really popular in the online space right now, so that's
Yeah.
very that's like a great avenue to go. I think right now, for online stuff, I like, and I'm still quite new to this, right? Like I didn't really go hard on the digital stuff until earlier this year. Actually, like just like 5 months ago,
I
really.
was like, you're like hitting the ground running. I'm just like watching you in total awe.
I just like it. I think it really was 5 months ago where I'm just like I'm gonna fucking go for it. But my brain sometimes that just happens. Like I need to like make a shift hard and fast, and I just go for
Yeah.
it. I love pegging. Um, I feel like I'm in like a very natural animalistic state when I'm pegging on camera,
Yeah.
just fucking hard. I like discreet cuckolding on
Yeah.
camera. I feel like for real cuckolding, I like to leave that for my in-person guys, and that's something I had to think about too. Like, how explicit do I want to be online,
Yeah.
and what am I going to leave for the people that I see in person, just so there's a little like tier to how well they can get to know me. Um, so that means sometimes like, the phone is outside of the door and they can see like little movements of like me moaning, whatever, but they don't like really get to see the thing, or they're in a closet,
Yeah.
like looking through the little slats, and that's all you get. That's all you get. Um, I think like hypnosis, sissification stuff is also really popular too. I really like HypnoTube personally for myself. And a lot of HypnoTube is geared towards, again, men, but in my head, it works for me when I personally am like masturbating for some reason.
What do you like to be
Um,
hypnotized for?
I like watching the sissification hypno
Ah,
too.
hot. That's
Yeah,
fun.
even if I don't have the same members that the videos are talking about,
Right.
like body parts, it still psychologically works for some reason. Or
Yeah.
maybe I'm just dropping into like the space my subs are in, but it's a really interesting I like watching it. It turns me
Well, I feel
on.
like subspace and like hypnoplay makes so much sense to me because subspace is just an altered state and
Uh-huh.
hypnosis brings you to that state. So like when you like the marriage of the two is just like so juicy and it like makes so much sense to me. Like who doesn't want to kind of be like seduced into feeling like a really beautiful way?
Yeah, exactly. And I think hypno works really well with any kind of like feminization, sissification too, because for people who are not actively like for some of my sissies, I think they are like closeted trans folks,
Yeah.
and so they're not transitioned, but they can like kind of experience it themselves. Um and hypno is like one of the ways that they can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
sometimes there's a humiliation element, sometimes they're not, depending on like what stage they're at.
I've always thought about it in like, I'm gonna see if I can think of this off the top of my head, but so many of the people who have come to see me, both like partners and online for cross-dressing, later came out as trans women or non-binary. And I think my percentage is specifically so high. I don't know if everyone's is so high, but I don't really do humiliation and cross dressing. Like, if you're humiliated by being a woman and by being feminized, like, that's one thing. But, like, why would I humiliate you when I'm trying to make you look like me, like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
woman and like get like I
yeah.
want you to look good. I'm not the like pink frills kind of girl. I'm like, let's go shopping for like beautiful like matching Wolford stockings and like a tight dress and like go out for a night on the town. Like I don't want to be like embarrassed to be with you. Like I have to like keep up.
Yeah.
But I've found that it's the same for me. Like so many are exploring their gender in some capacity and like what a fun way to explore your gender and like it through the realm of fantasy, which may or may not become your reality.
Yeah, I think for when I do feminization and like sissification play, when there is humiliation involved and I don't shy away from it, like I think like for some men who are in like extremely masculine spaces, like the only way they can access that part of themselves and that like
Yeah.
openness is unfortunately like through a level of like humiliation. But I think that's like one step, right? And it's like they can
It's
kind of
like
like
yes and
feel it. Yeah, feel it in that space, and then there's more to come. I like dressing my sluts in really cheap clothes though. It's like the opposite. Really cheap clothes. I once had a sub come in. I was like, you know what, we'll do a little fashion show, and he layered like 3 layers of like fishnets and bikinis, and it was like horrendous. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? You're gross. Bend over right now.
that is I will humiliate for bad taste is what I like
It is
will
so
humiliate.
bad. It is
Yeah.
so bad.
I, I'm like hedonist and like beauty is so important for me that I'm like I don't want to look personally like I like totally respect the like very trashy as cheap as possible and like totally get the like humiliation components of it, but like like I want to have like hot lesbian sex.
Yeah, you're
Like
like, I don't want
I
that in
like
my
fuck you like a
space.
beautiful woman.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want that in the space. That's like keep that outside.
Yeah, you can do that in your
Approach
private space, and
correctly.
when you come to me, like we're wearing matching shoes.
I love that. I love that.
Well, I'm curious how you got into kink and BDSM in general, and like
Yeah.
as a pro dom, like when you kind of decided to, or if you were pro first. I don't really know a lot about your background.
Yeah, I was in like the kink and lifestyle space since college, like actively physically participating in it when I like when I was around like I think 20. But I've always had these inclinations for years and years and was just like intellectually exploring it. And it was always kind of like cropping up in my life, and I would gravitate towards things that are like BDSM kink related. So, like an example of this is like in high school, I was on Tumblr all the time, and I loved creepy yeha clothing,
Yeah,
and I had no idea what BDSM was at the time. It's just like I really like this, like the leather and the buckles and all of that for reasons like I could not understand. Um, and when I finally sort of like, I think it was my first boyfriend. I don't know if we were dating at the time, but he was like he was like, like there's like rope. Like I've thought about rope before, and I was just gravitating towards it and fully started exploring out like felt life in college.
that's so fun. So I feel like Tumblr radicalized so many people.
Absolutely.
It's it's so interesting. I'm definitely older than you because mine was like AOL chat rooms was where I was
Yeah.
finding a lot of it, and I would pretend to be 18 years old with blonde hair and blue eyes and like huge titties, which I later got. I was later blessed with. And I would just have like cyber sex with these old men. And then as soon as they're like, I'm about to come, I'd be like, just kidding. I'm like an old man in my mom's basement. And then like I would go do my thing. And I'm like, that's what got me off was just like, and I was just like, it was all psychological for me. So it took me, I mean, I started when I was 18. 19, I like found the BDSM community officially, but like I never searched for kinky porn because I like didn't know the language and like, or like, like I liked convincing people with girlfriends to hook up with me. And then as soon as they were about to, I'd be like, oh no, we couldn't possibly. And then I would like think about that, about like how close I got them to cheating on their partner and like how powerful I felt. And
Oh
I'm like, how do you Google
wow.
that? I don't know.
I also never really watched porn until I like didn't really watch porn until like quite a bit. Like real people porn was pretty recent. I've always been into hentai, and I didn't even really start reading or watching hentai until I think like 17, 18. And the first like hentai I saw was like it was on YouTube, and I think this is not really hentai, it's more ecchi. It's like lighter, perverted stuff. It's two twin sisters like seducing their brother, and
Hot.
there's just one scene where he's like tied on the chair, and they had like a chocolate lipstick, and they were like, put the lipstick on, and like make him lick it off and just like back and forth.
So
And that's the
sexy.
first thing I ever like really watched in my life before.
I I like that that's the first porn you watched. I
And then it
I
was
mean,
literally Black Bible right after that.
incredible. Woo. I I love that. I feel like I mean like as a mommy, I'm super interested in like taboo incest role play and I a friend knew this about me and sent me this like Japanese game show porn of like, is this your family member's genitalia? And there's like, it's
Oh
like
my
glory
God.
hole. I'll definitely send you a link because I see
Send
your
it
face.
to me. Wow, I can't believe that a TV show?
It's definitely porn, and I'm sure they're all models. You know, like
Oh
it's.
my God.
I mean, it's
I love
suspension of
that.
disbelief. Like we have, you know, step bro. But it's fascinating. There's like a game show host in porn. I'm like, I want all the porn I watch to have a game show host. Like, how? I feel like it's missing from
A
mainstream.
moderator.
Yeah, exactly. We need someone letting it like a narrator or something like that. Definitely. Another thing that I'd love to chat with you about is you, from my memory, you were face in, meaning like you did not show your face for the earlier part of your career, and later chose to reveal your gorgeous face. And I guess I'm curious, like on both ends of those decisions, like what was going through your head and like what has come from the revelation.
Yeah, I so early when I started in 2019, I never uh expected to go face out ever. Like I was planning on being face in for like the entire duration of in-person work, and I like the mystery. I like the like in-person reveal of like this is who I am, you know. But then COVID happened, and I was trying to do digital work in 2020, but I just it wasn't clicking. Being face in, caused. It was just being face in was not conducive to doing any sort of digital work. And then I think in my day capacity, last year when I decided to go face, I think I just got to a point where everyone I love and care about who's close to me already knows what I do. It's been like a slow sort of like coming out and getting used to it. And then my day career got to a point where I don't think it would be jeopardized if I was face out. Um, and after doing that kind of risk analysis, I decided I'm comfortable with it, and I don't think I'm in a high risk population for any sort of extreme danger or like threats to my livelihood
Yeah.
if I'm face out. Yeah,
How has it like changed your like work persona or your relationship to your work having your face out?
I think I became. I think since 2019 till now, I just slowly became more and more comfortable in myself.
Yeah.
And being face out was part of it. And there's something about like I have some unhinged tweets, and now like people know who's saying them, right? Like I'm accountable for the things I'm saying. Like they know this is the person behind it.
You're
And
cancelable now.
I'm cancelable, and I fully accept that. And I mean, business shot up after I became face out. And I had a few subs say they were following me for a while, but they didn't want to make that jump because they didn't like what it really is. Like, didn't have that like parasocial bond with me
Yeah.
because I was face in. And I like the feeling of my reach getting broader and like that kind of influence getting broader. Now that I'm a lot more public and doing a lot more like podcasts and interviews and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So it's so fun when the web like expands and see who falls into the trap.
You know what though? Like I think every single sub is so different. I I had a little stereotype of like online subs where I assumed that they would all kind of be duplicates of each other, and they
Hmm.
wouldn't be as interesting as like my in-person
Yeah.
guys. But they're all like all very fascinating. I love talking to them, and I love interacting with them. And when I live stream, it feels like they're a little like unionized group. Sometimes they make fun of each other too. Like it's getting to a point a little bit where in some live streams they recognize each other's like usernames. And one guy one time on a live stream got way too high. He ate too many edibles, and I had another sub in the DM say like, "Hey, is that guy okay?" Like a day after. It was
Each are so
adorable. It
important.
is. It's adorable. They're just like a nice little like group of subs, and I like that they interact with each other.
Yeah.
That's also very special. And I'm new to the online space, but a lot of what I've been thinking about is like, how do I cultivate the following and the people I want in my community, right? Like
Yeah.
who am I trying to like energetically attract, and who do I want in this like little circle, this little club, right? And I think fostering a kind of like healthy dynamic with subs, and knowing also online how to like not always be in persona has been really helpful. Like
Yeah.
I'm not always. I know for some doms they're just 100% all the time being like you're a bitch all the time, but I'm not quite like that, and I like getting to know them on a
Yeah.
human level.
I feel like it makes play so much more fun too. And like I was having a conversation with Dasha Bond the other day, which will
I'm seeing her
releasing.
tomorrow.
Yeah, and so we have a new one coming out, and we were talking about how fun humiliation is, and how it's so much more fun when you like really know someone. And right, like if you're like sure, like I'm always the dominant in the role, but that doesn't mean like we're in a scene 24/7. Like in a 24/7 dynamic doesn't mean you're in like a 24/7 scene where
Yeah.
like I'm not getting to know you too. And for me it's been so fulfilling having these like long-term online relationships. I really shifted in like 2020 at the start of the pandemic to online work, and just being able like being a disabled person and like a lot of my social life like moving into online spaces, it was just like really lovely to connect with people who were exploring kink for the first time. I feel like so many people in like early lockdown time were like, well, like they came out as trans or like came out as kinky. They're like, well, like now fuck, like I have to sit with myself, and like all the distractions in my life are gone. And I think developed some like really close dynamics that like are really fun to like be able to go in and out, and like it just kind of like ebbs and flows naturally of like, someone is like sending me a news article and like asking me my opinion on it, and like to like it just like moving into like a verbal humiliation session and like edging and
Yeah.
tuning, and
Yeah.
it's just nice how like how even in virtual spaces like you can create space for someone to be their whole self.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm subscribed to your OnlyFans page, and I like the way you run it. It is very personal. It's like these, um, little plug for Blunt's OnlyFans page, which you should subscribe to. It's like, like a little view of your life and like your interests, and it's so specific too, and I really like that. It's not mass produced, and
Yeah, I feel
I'm, I'm trying to, I don't want to be a mass produced digital dom either.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love all the like I'm also subscribed to yours, and like love like all like the personal glimpses like between play that you share, and all of those like I feel like you do like the dungeon selfie so well, and like giving people like this glimpse into your life. I was like looking at yours the other day and like damn, like I really like I play with like a very select group of people, and often like I go with lovers to hotels and things like that, and I'm like man, like I really miss being in a dungeon. Like I'm currently in like my like what used to be like my play space. There's like hard points on the wall, like my
Ooh.
personal play space. But I miss the like I've moved so far away from like the dark dungeon aesthetic, and I'm starting to miss it again. I feel like so much. So I've been working since I was and like been involved with BDSM since I was like late 18, 19. And I feel like I just like both like things ebb and flow of like what's in vogue in kink, as well as like what I'm into. Like I made clips really religiously for years, and then I like started doing OnlyFans and like did that hardcore for like the first year of the pandemic, and then I'm like, we're doing voice notes like that. That's we're moving there, and now I'm like finally back to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, like I really am excited to start making clips.
Yeah, we should collab.
I
I'd
would
love to
love that. It
collab.
would be
I'll
so.
go up to you.
Yes, exactly. That's the only way people see me. So thank you for understanding that. But I think it's interesting too because I'm thinking still about like the face out thing because like when I started doing sex work, I, was advertising on Backpage. I didn't have social media. It was like this whole like subtext. It's me dating myself, but like was on Backpage, Maxfish, had like not a ton of photos, FetLife, and like that's how I was meeting people and meeting submissives. And I think I got my like Twitter and probably like 10 years ago now, but like I didn't really use it for like 5 or 6 years ago. And it's just changed so much. And I think like when I was like taking photos when I was like 19, I can't do math, but it was like over 10 years ago. Um, I it wasn't like in my realm of possibility. Facial recognition technology was like not something that I was thinking about when I was 19. It was not something I was thinking about when I started doing social media, and it right, it's like it wasn't until you saw it happening publicly that um I was thinking about it. And like I think a lot about all of the different like risks, like the risks and gains of being face out. So I remember when you were like talking about going face out, I was thinking about it and I was like, would I go face in at this point if I like, knew some of the shit I knew, but like there's no way to undo an online persona. But it's just I know it's so interesting how things shift.
Yeah. Would you go face in at this point, even though it's too late?
If I feel like I would have done something similar to you, to be honest, where I would have started face in and been like, yep, this is what I'm doing. Like, fuck it, face out.
I
But I don't think
think,
I would have started face in.
yeah, I think as the like was it Gen Z and Gen Alpha, there's a new phenomenon of like more internet influencers who are face in. They're wearing masks all the time.
Yeah.
I met a guy at a Kazumi's party like a month ago. He has like 1 million followers on TikTok, face in totally. He has OnlyFans,
Huh.
and he advertises like his hands on Instagram as the starting point, you know. And he's a pretty big influencer.
Interesting.
And there's also like other musicians too. There's like a guy who wears his name's like Disco Face. He wears like a disco ball for his head.
Yeah.
And
And
I think that's going to be a new trend in the upcoming generations. I think
yes.
privacy, having burner phones, not being overexposed is going to be in vogue. And there's a possibility, once if I get to a point where this doesn't fulfill me anymore, I might just start a new persona with a mask. And
Yeah.
that's a new me.
I
And
love when
I
people
don't
have
think we're
multiple
ever,
personas.
I don't think we should ever be married to one thing ever. I think the constant ability to change is very important, especially
Yeah,
as dogs. I think we're all very creative people that don't want to be like stuck, right? Like that's why we're doing what we're doing.
totally. I'm so curious if also part of the face in trend happened in 2020 when a lot of people were out of work and started making content. I feel like OnlyFans got like really flooded, not flooded, like people were buying shit. But so many people started doing sex work. Like I can't remember what the statistic is, but OnlyFans saw just like a huge increase in like the first month, or like April 2020 or something like that. And
Yeah.
a lot of the newer sex workers were face in and like stayed face in because they were able to get like pretty successful with that. I think there's something sort of, especially like when folks show like their lips, there's like something like very sexy about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And now with AI too, like since we're on the tech conversation, I wonder if we are going to get to a point where like you can just kind of be a VTuber essentially, right? Like you don't have to be a full person. You can just have a digital persona that represents you or like represents the sexual self of you, and that's who you are.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much surveillance now that I'm also really interested in how some of these trends will shift as people like work to like obfuscate like parts of their identity, and something that I do in other aspects of my life, although still all under the persona blunt, all of my aspects, is digital security trainings and working with sex workers and other marginalized communities to stay safer online. And so, it's so hard with these facial recognition technologies and all of the data that's being scraped on us that like we don't even know that it's sharing. And I think it will be really interesting to see like more of a mainstream response to that type of surveillance. And this is a bit of a leap, but I wanted to ask you some questions. I saw on your website you were talking about how some of like your like kink roots come from like a religious upbringing, and I feel like there is like this like heavy surveillance aspect in some types of very religious upbringings, whether it be from like God, the church, the parent, or like the community as well. And I'm curious how like what your relationship like I don't know. I find that like heavily religious people in my experience as like kinky people I know are like the have are just like primed for kink, and I'm just so curious what your experience is.
Yeah. I mean, it's like almost a stereotype, right? Like coming from a deeply like Christian background and then going to like kink and BDSM. Um, are you from that background too?
I come from a Jewish background, I come from like more of a kind of like we'll have Shabbat on Friday, believe
Mhm.
God if you want to, but I like went to like Jewish camp, which I feel like makes me feel more religious than I was because it was like an early point of my perversion.
Yeah, okay. Wait, what's Jewish camp?
Jewish camp is like sleepaway camp. It's like a religious sleepaway camp. So I would like go away
Okay.
for like a month or two at a time over the summers. Yeah, I think the like intent of this Jew camp was like for your child to marry another Jewish person. It was like cruising for kiddos. It was just like bananas space.
Uh, my first interaction with like a Jewish community in like a more regular basis was in the dungeon, the first dungeon I started at because it was in Bushwick. And I interacted with a lot of Hasidic Jews. And I think there's something about, yeah, when your relation with your body and sexuality is discouraged for a long enough time, and then you're in a religion that kind of really meditates on suffering in some type of way, and meditates on like pain and redemption through a person being flogged quite literally and then dying on the cross for you, you end up really gravitating towards it, right? It's kind of a little bit of a no-brainer.
I
um,
feel like that flow like I think so much about flow states when I think about BDSM and like right like I feel like I've seen a lot of Hasidic clients too, and like I've done like a wet t-shirt contest in like a tzitzit in a mikvah. I love doing like Jewish
oh,
blasphemy play. I've done like
yeah.
CBT with like the tzitzit. I've I've like done a sissification session with someone where I put on like their full get up with like the tzitzit and like the fur hat and like dom him in that while he's dressed like as a little girl. And
Oh
it's
my
just there's it's just
God.
it's so fun, but I feel like it's like all this combination of things that you're talking about, and like you've been going to this like if you like really were religious and like believed it and like a follower, like devotion is also such like a profound part of it. And then like if you move away from like the structure of organized religion, I feel like there's still that need. And I think that
Yeah.
that's what's so cool of like being able to like take on that like god like role and be someone's everything where everyone's action is in service to you. Something like I say over and over again to my submissives, like every action should be in service to God. I am your God. and
Yeah.
and it's just that like pathway of devotion is like so lubricated.
I think there's that like intensity of love that is
Yeah.
very difficult to replace in any other setting. Like that intensity of like I love you so fully and unconditionally and like you have my absolute everything that like there's no other place where you can do it and do it healthily other than kink and BDSM.
Yeah, because
And
it's
or
it's
I suppose
negotiated.
yeah, even I suppose even like I guess maybe being a mother is like that kind of role too, which is why perhaps you're like the mommy dog.
That's why I'm in business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Like I was talking in with Dasha yesterday. I was like, no one fucks you up like your mother. Like just
Yeah.
knows like exact like if they're that kind of person and like they're going in, they know exactly what to say to like ruin your life for months. Like just like one sentence, boom, like your therapy bill just like
Yeah.
escalates. And I feel like
Yeah.
the same is true of like God, that like relationship to God, and then like also like I talk a lot in mommy play, like this expectation of woman for like perfect attunement in a way that's not present with as present in daddy play. I feel like the expectations of mommy and daddy are so different. And I feel like there is this when you're moving away from an organized religion, um, it's like an attachment, like from like attachment theory, you have like this attachment to God, which could have been like this perfect attachment where you felt so seen and so held and so cared for. And then when you're moving away and you're starting to question things, it's like a disorganized attachment to this like foundational caretaker for you in life. And I imagine it being like a quite similar attachment rupture.
I think when I first started pro doming, I was um doing a lot more of these like more intense devotional like DS dynamics. And I think since then I've moved a little bit away from it and into right now the phase I'm in is more of a playful space.
Yeah.
Um I think it's just a phase I'm in right now because I mean I might if I get inquiries like I'll throw them to you, but I think that I there's like yeah that level of intensity that
Throw me a playful one too.
right now I'm really liking my playful guys. Yeah, I'm really liking the ones that are just like, yeah, I'm horny. And it's like edging for 3 hours, It's just like so the like simple animalistic desires. It's I think because I was in that space for so long now I'm here, then I'll probably like gravitate back to it
Totally.
with enough time.
I
Just
love
like
being able to
whenever I
like
hear
have
it.
that movement too of like different things. And I feel like I've definitely like leaned hard into the mommy thing, which brings certain like things out of the woodwork for sure. And I think it's also just like I'm at a point in like both my career and in the pandemic where I'm not taking as many like one-off sessions. So I feel like it when I was doing that, it felt much more playful. It's like not like I'm not playful with the people that I play with regularly. It's like very playful, but there is this like emotional depth and like just my general interest. Like I was talking about my early root stuff. Like I wanted like the deep dark like psychological shit. Like this is what I
Yeah.
was mostly interested in. But I wanted to mention this about religion and cults. There's this amazing book that I'm obsessed with called, I think it's called Terror, Love, and Brainwashing. And yeah, it's a good,
Check
I'll
it
send it
down.
to you.
Yeah, okay.
It's by a survivor of a cult. And she talks about, well, first, when I was reading it for like a month and just like underlining every word in it. And everyone who saw me reading it was like, is this a how to manual for you? Like, are you reading this as a how to manual? And I'm like, no, maybe you
Now
know.
I'm studying up and taking notes.
And like all of my tweets were about cults. But it talks about um like using disorganized attachment as a way to take power from like interpersonal violence, from like cults to MLMs and like multi-level marketing pyramid schemes. And I just thought it was so interesting how it goes from the personal to like the religious to like the alt to like cult to fascism at like a state level through disorganized attachment. It's like a book on attachment theory and cults. And I found it so interesting. I feel like the research I've done on attachment theories is such a big part of my play, which is why I think it tends to be a little like darker.
Yeah. I think for my in-person stuff, it tends to be in a little bit darker space. I think you're also a very heavy sadist, and I remember that because like 2 years ago, I got dinner with Ava O,
Uh-huh.
and I was talking about some of my fantasies, and she's like, "I think you and Daniel will get along very well, like my sadistic fantasies." And she was like, "Yeah, Daniel's a hard sadist in a way that I don't see very often."
Oh my God, I'm so flattered. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, I was just
I want to know what fantasies these were.
I think I saw you tweet once about like having an orgy, but when you run out of holes, you cut new ones into a person, and I was like, oh fuck yeah.
That's one of my like deepest fantasies. Just
Yeah.
like, where can we make a new hole? Like,
Oh my
mommy's
God,
tired
yeah.
of
That's
the other.
I also have this like I've talked about this before. My deepest, darkest fantasy that probably will never happen in life is like I want to do a resurrection scene where they
Ooh,
just temporarily are gone,
yes.
and then I can like bring them back.
Ugh. I mean, okay. Yes. I okay, clearly I understand where Eva was coming. I have like heavy anesthesia fantasies and
I've been
or
saying that if I could have surgery recreationally, I
me
would. Like,
too.
I love
We
the
should have a
feeling.
date.
I love the feeling of going under. We should have. Let's
I
go
know
on
we
a
can hold
date.
hands.
Yeah, please.
What are you doing? Oh, just going on a date.
Yeah, just going unconscious completely.
That could be us doing like lesbian cuckolding while someone just watches us under anesthesia.
Oh my God. Wait, can we
I
please?
I know. I feel like the like I mean the fantasy. I'm using certain words because who knows what platform this will be on. The fantasy of forced in dogs is just like coerced in talks, we'll say. I love how payment platforms make you say coerce now instead of the FORCE word.
Yeah.
So silly.
It's like
Um,
not torture, it's torment.
oh, that's good. I go tor space chur
Oh,
torment.
I always do torment now. It's like
Okay,
okay.
cool. I just learned something. Thank you. Like it's not torment. It's something deeper. Yeah, like I feel I like totally get you on that and like am actively cruising for an anesthesiologist boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm just like, what do you look for in a partner? An anesthesiologist degree.
Oh
That's
my
it.
gosh, yeah, I have yet to come across that. I mean, I once had a sub who, I mean, the sub is also someone who's been around, so maybe you've had him before. He's like a chemist.
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay. Oh, I can talk
I
about the
love those
session.
community
I
subs.
haven't seen him in like a year, so I think it's okay. He would make this powder himself where he won't be able to contract his muscles. So when I put him in even light bondage, he cannot get out of it. And it's like, I can just do whatever I want.
Mm.
Yeah.
I played a game once where um there was a die and six different bags sealed with a different pill in each one. And each of these placebos, these placebo medication, um, would do something different to you. And so, like, up, down, roll the dice, see how your day goes. And the instructions were just like a game to play when you have 48 hours free.
Oh, wait, I love that.
Isn't it a sexy game?
It is a sexy game.
And just like, I love the like someone being my like guinea pig to experiment on. And I think it's like there are fantasies that like you can make reality, and then there's fantasy, right? Like killing someone, like maybe not in this lifetime.
Yeah,
But
but
like
that's why we have the digital space,
I
right?
know,
Like
and that's why I
for
think and,
for me, it's like certain things can only be portrayed in an artistic way.
yeah, yeah, totally. But yeah, so fun. I'm like already thinking about how I'll have to edit this
Oh,
for
I have no
different
idea.
platforms.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like some of that like darker play, but I feel like it really hits on power. Like, what is more powerful than being in control of someone's life, being in control of someone's breath? I just like recorded this. My background is in many different things, but one of them is yoga and pranayama. And I sent out like a breath work clip and voice note that was instructing someone how to breathe to like mimic the experience of breath play. And I have a submissive that I've been playing with for 2 years virtually. And he was like, I have never felt that level of control it like replicated without like he was like it was as if your like hands were around my neck like giving me permission to breathe. And I feel like breath and life is so so powerful.
I like that. It was my root to get
I know clearly I mean she has good taste, so you
along.
know.
She does. She does.
Truly. Oh my goodness. um yeah, I feel like we clearly need to play together, we clearly need to co-top.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I like clearly need to be like mentored by you too. Like you have so much more years of experience ahead of me. Um, I can like teach you how to do TikToks, and you can teach me how to like properly.
That's how I know not to. So please, yeah. TikTok is like what ruins my life, my mental health.
I'm barely on it right now too, and I need to be, but it's just like silly, silly little clips.
Silly, silly little clips. Oh my goodness, yeah. We need to post like a an ad for an anesthesiologist.
Yeah, I'll tweet about it.
Okay. Speaking anesthesiologist, I think Twitter is such a powerful form of manifestation. Just like put it out there.
Yeah, just see like who comes out of what works. Because I also think because we're so shadow banned, the people who do see it are like it's so exacting that it
Yeah,
is their interest. Every single sub that has like seen me on Twitter has all it's like almost 100% have ended up seeing me for a session.
amazing.
Because it's just so specific to what they're looking for.
Because they're looking. Yeah,
Yeah, they're looking.
they're
Like
they're looking.
if
They're
I'm on your
needing.
feed, I'm it's already there. You're already halfway there. It's
It
already
is.
over.
I feel like that's something that happens too when you like really fine tune your branding and like, right, like it's not just the persona and like the I feel like the persona is constructed to call things into you of like what you are looking for and like what you want to play with and like I'm curious like what does like Mistress Tomie's ideal submissive look like? I would love to like end on like this
Ooh.
question.
Yeah, so when I first started pro-doming, to the branding question first, when I first started pro-doming, I thought a lot about branding, and then I think actually halfway through when I decided to like not think about it too much and just be more like just be myself and attract people who are into who I am as a person, it became a lot easier to do what I do and like play the way I play and also like evolve. I think branding is too stiff of like a construct
Yeah,
for me specifically. And I know it works for some other people, but I think for me, I like this to be a playground and I think my subs know that too. And I think the ones that uh like play with me, if I'm in the mood in that particular moment to like do what they're into, it's like they feel very lucky that like they caught me in the right time. My ideal submissive right now, um, I always love a masochist. I think that's been a recurring constant theme. I love subs who are proactive in serving me, who enjoy like adding to my life and being part of my life. Because that's I think it's becoming more and more clear to me like that's what's happening for both the digital side and the in-person side. They're being added to a facet of my life and they're supporting that part of my life and also helping me grow as a person as I play and like enjoy pleasure and like experiment with them as an extension of like me experimenting with myself.